True story.
True
Joining
story.
us now, Hank Azaria, who's the star of Brockmire, which premieres April 5th on IFC. Thanks for being here on SportsCenter. I know you're a huge sports fan. This is awesome for us.
I am. I'm happy to be here. If Jim Brockmire were here, he would say that he loves SportsCenter. He also loves that you're slowly but surely turning this set into the bridge of the Starship Enterprise.
Certainly.
Not
Very
sure what
high tech.
Yes. All this shiny nonsense. Not sure what it has to do with sports, but I say engage.
We don't know either.
Yeah.
We just turn the lights on and see what happens.
Because we're going to teleport you to your next show that you have to be on. Essentially, that's what's going to happen.
You
Beat
have
you
to
up.
here because everybody go.
You see the bobblehead?
Yeah.
Right? The bobblehead right here. So he technically is here.
He's technically here.
Technically here.
Tell us what you think about this show will be compelling to the audience at home.
Well, this is the correct audience for Jim Brockmire. It is, among other things, a sybaritic love letter to baseball, a rather alcohol-fueled, insane love letter to baseball. But it's also an incredible love story, and mostly, to me, it's really funny, honestly. I wouldn't just say that, even though I'm here promoting it. I think it's my favorite thing I've ever done.
What is it about
Really?
baseball that inspires storytelling to this capacity where people can look at it and just, even if you're not a hardcore baseball fan, you can see something in this and maybe relate it back to something you experience every day?
Well, first of all, when 90% of your sport is watching men stand around, you know, it helps to have charismatic men in deep voices describe it to you. And Brockmire sort of represents, he's old school. He's old school even for these guys. He's of another era.
Yeah.
And not even aware of things like the internet, amazingly enough. And so it sort of becomes a metaphor for how the past is having to meet the future in some ways that they may not like.
We meet Brockmire because it has a very public meltdown,
yes.
Right at the beginning of the show. To you, what's the most memorable sports meltdown that you can think of?
Oh, my goodness, there have been a few.
Exactly.
Been some in New York through the years, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's hard to get the image of Jim Rome getting slapped out of my head.
That's one.
Yep, Jim
That's
ever went after him?
definitely one. You know, there have been some real scandalous ones, right? Like Jimmy the Greek was one when I was growing up that was like, wow, he just actually said that, okay? Yeah, guys have ended their careers. This one's closer to the Marv Albert realm.
Okay.
Now, we're all real glad that Marv's made his way back.
Marv bounced back pretty well.
Jim Brockmire's hoping to go the Marv Albert
He's trying to
making his way back in.
Now, if you know anything about Hank and his career, just tremendously gifted actor, but also a voice actor as well from The Simpsons and so many other characters. When you come up with these voices for these different characters, what is that process? Do you look at certain people, like take a little bit of Bob Costas, maybe some Vince Scully, throw in some John Miller? Do you kind of do it that way, or is it just more organic in that aspect?
Sometimes, for this voice, I actually sent the show to Bob Costas.
Oh, you did?
I thought he'd like it, and he did. He watched,
baseball guy, yeah.
He watched all 8 of them, and he identified it properly as the generic baseball announcer voice. It's distinct in its indistinctiveness.
Yeah.
It's the vanilla ice cream of voices, especially from the 70s. It
Sounds familiar, but you may not know who he is.
Right.
The closest equivalent, I'd say, is John Miller.
Okay.
I think the modern guy sounds close, but John Miller is tremendous and awesome. Jim Brockmire's a little more middle of the road, maybe a little bit more of a hack.
Okay.
Although he's quite colorful.
I think it's like holding your nose, right? It's always like, essentially, when you talk like this. But you talk about being the voice actor of a generation.
Well, you sound
Now
like you have a cold now. I don't know about that.
Yeah, it sounds like I need a nose spray.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit more like you're happy to get out with a cold.
It's like Tiger Woods.
You sound a little tigerish.
Yes.
What's your, because of all the voices that you've done, though, what is your personal Mount Rushmore of the voice characters that you voiced?
My personal
Yes.
one?
Yeah, your favorites.
I'd put Mo the Bartender up
course.
there.
Gotta be, right? Yeah, all time.
I would put Agador Spartacus from the movie The Birdcage.
Of course.
One of my favorite
He keeps
roles.
a
that you
voice.
did,
Yes.
yep.
Can you put a voice on a mountain? I don't know.
We're doing it on this
We're
show.
doing it.
Yes, let's do it. I'd put Jim Brockmire up there.
Okay.
Not just because I love it, but I'm promoting it here today, and they'll get angry with me if I don't.
That's important.
And I'll go with Police Chief Wiggum from The Simpsons as well. I'd put him up there.
So no Apu, he doesn't land in
Who
there.
didn't get there?
Apu, you know, he gets honorable mention. You know, at the bottom, at the base of the mountain.
He's in the conference.
Perhaps selling curios to the Mount Rushmore tourists.
Now, one of my favorite shows that you've appeared in is Ray Donovan on Showtime. I lived in LA for 10 years, and so there's kind of like Entourage. There's so many things about it that are just LA that a lot of people probably don't get, but just the idea that there's a fixer that can go around and do certain things. Now, you played with FBI agent, and you were an
yes.
absolute jerk in that role. clearly you're not. But if you're an actor, you have to play those roles sometimes. Did you ever have an experience or you know of someone who needed a fixer when you lived in Hollywood?
No. Why? What have you heard?
No.
I certainly never did. I never did.
No, not you?
Yeah, that stuff.
It's a real thing.
Stuff happened.
Without question.
And I mean, perhaps is a little heightened on Ray Donovan, at least at times. But you know, let's put it this way: a job exists. There are those guys, so they must be doing something.
Right. No
or
doubt.
someone.
We can't let you get out of
Exists
here.
in the sports world too, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, I would imagine. There's definitely got to be a
sports
fixer.
are celebrities, so they kind of intertwine, right?
Yeah.
We got to talk about your Mets. Because you're a huge Mets fan. I would love for you to share the people, as a born and bred New Yorker, what is the biggest difference between a Mets fan and a Yankees fan?
Well, I'm going to have Jim Brockmire take this
Please.
one too.
Okay, that'd be good. Yeah.
The Mets, let's call the Mets are the Yankees of not being the Yankees, okay? They're just, it's 30 years as a Mets fan of just unmitigated failure, peppered with little breaks of getting kicked in the nuts. And in New York, it's especially hard. It's like being the unloved little brother, being a Mets fan in New York. It's like being Stephen Baldwin, which is, by the way, absolutely the worst possible thing any human being could ever be. So,
because there's Alec.
Yeah.
And then there's Billy.
For so many reasons, really.
You wouldn't want to be Stephen.
I can't even really name it. Too many to count. Can't count the problem.
You just know he's at the bottom.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think anyone would choose that one first or second, so I think it's pretty accurate.
Brockmire, April 5th on IFC. We wish that we could keep you around on that, but you've got other things to do. So
I have
ready
other,
to be beamed up.
shows to do.
Don't forget your bobblehead, though, on the way out.
Oh, no, that's for you.
Oh, is this for us?
Oh, please.
So now we're going to fight over it?
Indian give a bobblehead. But be careful. He talks, and he only says off-color things. So
Perfect for us.
it's a Disney show, so be careful.
Yeah.
Appreciate the time, man.
Commercial
My
break.
pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Still